Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our 2022 edition of the Marketing Derby Annual Business Event. This year we are running a hybrid, so we have maybe 100 people here in the Quad Auditorium with us this morning and 300 or so watching it online. You're all very welcome, whichever way you're experienced in the ABE. My name is John Forkin, I'm Managing Director of Marketing Derby, and I'm loving that John Hurt quote, so I want to go back to that. John Hurt, here we are in the Sir John Hurt Auditorium at the Quad. John Hurt was a patron of the Quad, and he was brought up in Derbyshire, and he fell in love with cinema from his visits as a child to Derby, to the various different cinemas. And here you can see in some of his great roles that he kind of played over the years, Quentin Crisp, The Elephant Man, Alien, and Harry Potter. And the quote that you can see there, when a city believes in itself, and its ability, people want to get involved and are excited. He said that in this room, and he said it as he came back to Derby as a patron of the Quad, and he could feel the change in the place on each of his visits. He could feel a place that was becoming more aspirational, ambitious, and was beginning to change, and he was very welcoming of it. And that whole thing about belief that's in his quote there is the theme of our event today. It's believe. Last year, you remember when we ran it as a film, it was about hope. Today, I think, in this word cloud, we're talking about confidence, we're talking about aspiration, and we're talking about a passion for place. And hopefully over the next 90 minutes, that's what you will experience. Just 2 or 3 quick examples, I think, of current belief strategies that we're involved in as a city. First of all, the bid to become the City of Culture in 2025. For me, this is a perfect example of a place believing in itself finally. The bid was made very late. But we got to the semi-final, and we now await, in a couple of weeks' time, we will know whether we're in the final or not. But I think that the partnership, the collaboration that's come together to make this bid from the public sector, the private sector, the business, and the broader grassroots cultural community has been phenomenal. And whether we're in that final or not, and whether we win the bid or not, in a sense, we're already on a journey, I think, with how culture and the role that culture can play in the future of Derby as a city, which is why we're here in this Quad today. So whatever happens, I think the collaboration is real. And we're getting a bit of a taste for it. We're about to submit a bid as a city to become the headquarters of Great British Railways. It's another public-private partnership collaboration. Civic leadership, our MPs, businesses, the wider community. And we believe we really have a compelling case to be the HQ of this organisation. It's quite prestigious. Bring a lot of jobs to the city, a lot of business to the city. But our bid won't just be based on our heritage as one of the world centres of the railway sector, but probably more importantly as a world-leading hub of businesses in the rail sector of the future. And so that bid will be made in a couple of weeks' time. And lastly, in relation to this, you would expect me to talk a little bit about Save Derby County, because I think this campaign that's been running now for the last 6 or 7 weeks has seen an astonishing unity across the city. Again, civic leadership, communities, grassroots. The message, one city, one club, is kind of out there all of the time. 60,000 people signed a petition, 10,000 people went on that demonstration on March a few weeks ago. And it really has kind of got recognition and something special is happening. Now, the media coverage that all of these, the Derby County, the City of Culture, and soon to happen the GBR, the media coverage that it brings, the profile it brings to the city is quite phenomenal. And both local, regional, national, and international. So Derby really has been, if you like, on the national platform of profile over the past few weeks. Radio 5 Live, the Today programme, Good Morning Britain, and so on and so forth. I want to share one brief news clip with you. So this is from ITV News. They visited Chellaston School a few weeks back in in the heart of the campaign, if you like. And I want you to listen very carefully to what these children, junior school children, so age 8, 9, 10, how they see the campaign to save Derby County. And I think there's some astonishing insights from people so young in the city in terms of not just the importance of the club, but probably more importantly, the importance of place and community and the like. And it's, to me, kind of what you're about to see shows a maturity in what I would call consciousness of place, real understanding that community is really, really vital to Derby, and Derby County is a part of that. So if we run the ITN news clip, please.
Earlier, we visited a school where children were dressed in black and white as a show of support, and we also met one teacher who actually supports a rival team, but he's backing the Rams. At Chellaston Junior School, they're learning all about the ups and downs at Derby County.
And there's a big, big threat.
The children and staff are wearing black and white to show solidarity with the club.
The main part of today, Derby County are in danger. Why are Derby County in danger?
Because we don't have that much money to pay for what we need to pay, and that means that we might be going out of business if we don't have a buyer.
What does Derby County mean to you?
The community will never really be the same if it goes out of business and we don't have it. It's just part of my life, even if I don't really support it or watch it a lot. Just knowing that other people do is just something good, and I'd like to keep it going.
There's a Derby County slant to all of the classes today.
The club is the heart of the city, isn't it? And it brings so many people together, and it's really important that our children engage with that. That it's their community, and they want to build their future in here, in Derby, and the club's part of that.
Many of the youngsters are looking forward to Sunday's clash against Birmingham City.
I've been going since I was 3.5, and it's been really nice for me to go see who I look up to most, and you get to feel like if it's your dream when you're older and that.
Joey, how worried are you that Derby could collapse, that they could fold?
Really worried, and if it does happen, honestly, might cry in my bed for a long time.
My granddad and my dad always go to the matches, and they just love watching them. My parents got married at Pride Park, so if they lose Derby, then they won't have a place to talk about where they got married. So basically their wedding will be lost.
And even teachers who support rival teams are backing the Rams.
Sir, Mr. Beeston, you are a Nottingham Forest fan, but you're supporting Derby.
I am indeed, yes. I'm a Nottingham-born person, but to support Derby County, I live in Derby, so I'm doing my part to play to help save Derby.
The whole city is behind the Rams. Some of their most vocal fans are right here at Chellaston Junior.
School was never like that when I was there, and although it was wonderful that the parents' marriage is practically dissolved if Derby County goes into administration, it goes into liquidation. Well, hopefully we might hear some good news on that later today, and I'll say no more at this point, but fingers crossed that there's going to be some progress there. One of the traditions at our annual business event is that we're always hosted by one of Derby's cultural community centres. Today we're at the Quad, and we're always delighted to, first of all, be here, but also allow someone who represents that organisation to come up, welcome you to the Quad, and just talk a little bit about what happens here. So, can I ask to come up to stage Dr. Alex Rock, who's Head of Technical and Commercial Services here at the Quad. So, Alex, if you come on up, please.
Hello everyone, I'm Alex, I'm Quad's Head of Technical and Commercial Services, and on behalf of the team I'd like to offer you all a really warm welcome to Quad for this year's annual business event. It really is an honour and a privilege to host this. It's the biggest event in Derby's business calendar, so a big thank you to John, a big thank you to Katie, Andrew and the whole team at Marketing Derby for asking us to be a part of this year's event. Andrew told me when we were planning the event that the last time we hosted the ABE, I didn't know we'd hosted it before I came to Derby in 2012. The last time we hosted the ABE was in 2008. So that was the year we opened, and it's great to welcome Marketing Derby back 14 years later. And then that got me thinking about that 14-year period. During that 14 years, it feels like the city has changed so much, and we're all excited to play our part in Culture Derby 2025, Derby's bid for City of Culture. The story of our city, of making, of creativity, sport, leisure and industry, it deserves to be told, and on the biggest stage. 14 years ago, it didn't seem realistic to even think about submitting a bid like this. But here we are now, not only submitting the bid, but we're confident, expectant, and we're proud of Derby and its cultural offer. So, Quad has been there and played its part in supporting that growth over the past 14 years. And in turn, the business community of Derby, including Marketing Derby, have helped to support the work that we do too. So hopefully, over the years, you've all come to see a film or two here, or you've come to see one of our exhibitions and some of the international artists that we host. But what you might not know about are the hundreds of workshops we host every year for a variety of different people, whether that be children in care, whether it be young people on the autistic spectrum, or older members of the community at risk of social isolation. We're proud to also play our part in helping Derby onto the international stage through running Format, which is the UK's largest festival of contemporary photography. We've helped inspire the future generations of industrial leaders, cultural leaders, and we've set the foundations for Derby's 21st century enlightenment, alongside our fellow cultural partners and the business community. So Quad is a charity as well. That might not be something that is abundantly clear, but we are a charity, and every single penny you spend with us through buying a cinema ticket or a coffee, hiring our spaces for events such as this, or becoming a sponsor of a seat, a step, or a space, every single penny helps us as we continue to inspire the people of Derby to engage with art, to make and to create. So I'd like to buy you all a coffee in our cafe bar. I hope you've all enjoyed your breakfast. You've seen the size of the cafe bar. I probably can't fit you all in at the same time for a chat. But I'll be in there after the event if you would like to find out more about how to get involved with Quad. And if you're online, look me up on LinkedIn, send me an email. I'm always happy to have a chat, a catch up and a cuppa. So thanks everyone. Thank you to John and the team, and enjoy the event.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Alex. Alex sat on one of our, we've had a number of focus groups the past few weeks looking at the city centre and what needs to happen in terms of evolving it and repurposing it. We'll come on to some of that later, and Alex sat on one of them, and Alex was so positive about the city centre and the things that he does here, and so we renamed him Alex Rocks when we talk about him in the office. I hope you don't mind, Alex. And the Quad, I mean, we talked about unthinkable, Derby without Derby County. I think it's equally unthinkable Derby without Derby Quad, because this is a hub for so much activity and so much that goes on in the city. So, moving on to some of the, if you like, the housekeeping of an annual business event. Just reminding everybody of our mission. It was the same mission we put up here 14 years ago, last time I stood on this stage. We are the Ingwood Investment Agency for Derby and Derbyshire. We go out there and we promote the place for investment opportunities. We're a very small team. This looks as if we all stood outside of the Quad earlier today and had our photographs taken, but I believe we have the best Ingwood investment team in the country. It's probably why we won the Queen's Award, and we keep winning different awards. We're a very, very professional, focused, passionate team for Derby and Derbyshire. So as MD, I want to thank the team for the help they've provided, and anyone who has any dealings with Marketing Derby, and Alex has just kind of referred to some of the team members there. Hopefully your experience kind of reflects that. We're overseen by a board of directors. If you like, they give us the strategic guidance. The chair, Bob Betts, will be on stage at the end of this session, so I want to thank a real representation there, if you look at the logos of different bondholders, public-private sector involvement there. And then every year, I say a massive thank you to our bondholders, over 350 companies now who support Marketing Derby. It's been a really tough 2 years through COVID. We really did wonder, would people stick with us? Would they say, look, tough times, mate, it's been good, but we need to go? And it's been astonishing that the bondholders have kind of kept the faith with Marketing Derby, kept the faith with Derby and Derbyshire. So a really big thank you to all of the bondholders, and I include in that the City Council, the County Council, and D2 and to Local Enterprise Partnership as well, who also provide funding to us. So this brings us a tremendous amount of both cash, but also cachet, and hopefully as we go through the session this morning, you'll get an idea what we spend our money on. It is an annual business event, so therefore we have produced an annual report. We've done it as a kind of newspapery type thing today, and it's a reflection on what's been happening in the past year in the kind of inward investment world of Derby and Derbyshire. So you'll get a copy of that on the way out. I do urge you to read it. And also, we are relaunching, after a 2-year hiatus, our Insider Tour. So you'll also receive an A5 flyer on the way out. We have those dates where, effectively, when we have an investor in town, we kind of do a bit of a walking tour with them. I call it the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so they kind of see where the city's coming from, where it's trying to get to, but they're also looking for where the opportunities might lie. And we do that with local people. So if you want to see how we sell the city, how we do those walkabouts, and really get an idea of what might lie behind an empty building and why it's still empty or what might be happening with it, I urge you to come on that. They're free and those dates, and they're kind of already filling up. So if you send Katie an email, you'd be very welcome to join us. And then just one thing just to look out for. We've kind of done a deal this week. I can't quite say where it's going to be just yet, but we're going to open an urban room in Derby, and that's going to be a partnership with the City Council, with the university and some companies. And it's going to showcase, not just for investors, but for the public, for bondholders, where Derby's going to, what the plans are, somewhere where you can kind of get an idea of some of the developments that are coming down the line. And I visited similar showcases, if you like, in London, in Amsterdam a couple of years ago, and even in Shanghai. You can imagine Shanghai is a bit bigger than an urban room, but we're going to start that in the city centre this spring, and hopefully you'll be able to kind of come in and see what's going on. So that's the urban room. And we are also, I skipped a slide there, we're also have relaunched our website today. So Marketing Derby's website, anyone who owns a website knows you have to kind of refresh it every now and again. It's a massive task. I want to thank the team for the work they've done on that, in particular Katie, Catherine and Christina, but the whole team, and also Think3, who have kind of structured for us. So this morning that's gone live, so there's a new website now if you go on to Marketing Derby. And as a bondholder, hopefully your experience of what's on there will be a lot better. So, coming back to bondholders, one of the things that you'll find on the new website is a new film. We decided we wanted to do a kind of refresh of a film for bondholders, so it's aimed at potential recruits, if you like, new companies who are thinking, well, what's all this bondholders about? But it's also aimed at bondholders themselves, trying to give you a slightly bigger understanding as to the benefits of being a bondholder. Some people use one particular aspect of the scheme, others. And we got Avit down to the Penta Hotel a couple of weeks ago with some bondholders. I know some of them are in the room this morning, to put a piece of film together, which we're launching today. And we will be using this, as I say, as a recruitment tool. And I want to thank the team at Avit, in particular Cameron Hogan, who really have put together what I think is a really interesting film. So if we run the new bondholder film, please.
Benefits of being a bondholder. Well, where do we start? Once again, it's the opportunity to publish a business. You feel like you're part of a tight-knit community, really, and you get to...
That's how I felt. It's yeah, it does feel like you've got some allies within the city.
Yeah.
Because for me, Cavito, it wasn't just about getting new clients, it was about meeting people. And I have gained so many friends from Marketing Derby and been introduced to so many amazing businesses locally.
I think there's something about local community, local business and locally giving back. And I think that's what really sort of captured businesses. So what better platform to get out to business leaders than Marketing Derby?
The connections is the big part for me. Because I'm just me and I work from home, having that sort of community, if you like, from a business point of view has been really, really important.
I've never felt a networking group like Marketing Derby in that sense. It's not everyone selling to one another.
You know, we're a small business, 10, 12 people, and we're based in Derbyshire. But to get your face in front of Toyota and Rolls-Royce, as well as lots of the big sort of law firms, it sort of raises your profile.
We like to host events at the museum, so that's something which I really enjoy doing, seeing people come in, use the museum.
That we've got a space that will host Team Derby, I guess, they'll host the bondholders. That means that we can walk out, we can say hello to them, we can have quick catch-ups. So whether it's an event or whether it's just in our own space, we can be meeting many different people across the city.
Bondholder event at the Embassy in London, so I was lucky enough to be able to speak at one of those events, and the publicity that we got from that event, not just from people from Derby but also from London, was really good for us.
The social events and just being able to still have that community still available to us and not being worried about whether we're going to be able to meet up in person, keeping that continuity and still technically meeting people, but across from a screen, as much as it took a bit of getting used to.
The e-shots are brilliant because, you know, 3 times a week you're going to get useful information come through telling you what fellow bondholders are up to, gives you a good way of keeping on top of like local news.
So the thing that's kind of drawn me into becoming a bondholder for Marketing Derby is like the insight to things going on in the city, anything up and coming, and for example the City of Culture, just understanding how that's affecting the city, how it's going to affect me and my business, how it's going to affect the city as a whole, and I think that insight that we get from that and don't necessarily get from elsewhere.
And how much responsibility we actually have as well.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Because I'm a bondholder, I've got influence on what happens in the city, I get a say so, it's amazing.
Innovate magazine has been really good for information gathering for me. I use it to help lots of my clients really with what's going on in Derby, and I love seeing my little logo with everybody else's across Derby in the magazine as well.
And I think LinkedIn's great as well because you can put stuff on there kind of in confidence, share ideas, but also just learn from other people. You might have a problem, you know, you need advice on, and you know, bondholders can kind of comment and offer help and advice when they've been in similar situations themselves.
It's just the amount of work that goes in from their side in terms of bringing people into the city.
I think relationships key word as well, because like I think sometimes a lot of the events I've gone to, I feel like I get to know the person before I even know who they work for, what they do, and I think that's how it manifests itself really, to have the relationships.
We were welcomed with open arms by Marketing Derby.
Such a phenomenal way to build friends. It's more than networking. I always tell people it's more than networking.
So on to our next chapter, and just reflecting on that bondholder film, you often hear about where they make Christmas videos in the summer, and they have to have parties and pretend they're Christmas. It was a little bit like that. The bondholders aren't normally gathering at the Penta Hotel shooting pool at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning, but in January they were. So thanks so much for everybody who's involved in that, and to Lindsay for pulling that group together. I think it's a really fantastic reflection on what it's all about. Now, our core business is to promote the city and the county in order to attract inward investment, and this little section of the AB is going to very much focus on that, and it's really how we use your money. And the first thing I'm just going to highlight, both of which will be available on the new website, is the prospectuses that we kind of have launched, in investment prospectuses. So first for the city, which has about £1.2 billion worth of investment opportunities. We've refreshed that in the last week, and we'll be taking that out with us to MIPIM in a few weeks' time. There's a lot in the pipeline already coming through, and we're going to hear about that in a bit more detail in a few minutes. And also we pull one together for the county, and it's also about £1 billion of investment opportunities. The county is obviously a very large space, from Swadlincote to Glossop. It's a large county with lots of different sorts of microeconomies within that. So that's been a major challenge pulling that together. But it really, I think, it kind of pulls together very well the offer that the county has, and we'll be looking at that a bit later as well. We also try to ensure that Derby and Derbyshire gets a place in the regional and national investment offers, if you like. So we have guaranteed a presence in the Midlands Engine Investment Atlas. which is been launched in a couple of weeks' time for schemes both in the city and the county, and then also in the government prospectus that they launch every year, which again has been launched in a couple of weeks' time. And it's just important for us, I think, to fly the flag. And some of this kind of comes to fruition, and it does work. One of the things we found out this week is that the Financial Times FDI magazine has identified Derbyshire as one of the top 10 small European regions of the future for the inward investment strategy that we have. And you can see that it's the only one in the UK. I think it's Derby and Derbyshire in truth, but and we'll get that award in a couple of weeks' time at MIPIM. But it's really important for these things are kind of used and picked up. Any sort of award you can have is useful in terms of bringing credibility to the offer. However, at Marketing Derby, we have a phrase that we often use, which is we just say, so what? So what, you got a film, so what, you got a nice prospectus. They're tough to do, they're very good, the ones we do produce, but does it have any impact? So for me, these next two slides are probably the most important slides of the morning. It's the jobs that we bring in, it's the investment that we bring in and the impact we have on the economy. You can see there the numbers for the past 3 years. So we're rolling on nearly 2,000 jobs created with a lot more in the pipeline, nearly £500 million of capital investment attracted and an impact on the wider economy of over £300 million. And that is the impact of Marketing Derby. If you convert some of that into cash, in particular in relation to the city, business rates, we've totted up all of the investments we've brought in and the business rates they pay. And you can see that over £17 million now has been paid in business rates by the different investments that we've had a hand in bringing into Derby City, this is. And this year alone, £5 million has been brought in business rates, of which £2.5 million are retained in the city. So the grant that we get off the City Council, the return on investment on that grant this year is, for every pound we've got off the City Council, £15 has gone back into the City Council. So it's about the jobs and the investment, but also I think it's bottom line benefit, because that money can then be used to kind of develop some other initiatives on behalf of the City Council. Now, obviously, it was mentioned in the film by Donna from Wavensmere, we run embassies, and we've done this from day one, and they're a really important tool in our kit box. We're the only, I still don't understand why we're the only inward investment agency that really does this, but we do, and they work. And we've had a 2-year hiatus, obviously, on these types of events, but we gathered Team Derby down in London just before Christmas. I think it was in November, and it was at the Sky Gardens, which is on the top of the walkie-talkie. And as I said, it was our first event for 2 years. Lots of bondholders went down, lots of investors from London came over. So we're now going to show you a film of that particular event. So if we run that film, please. Right, good evening and welcome to our embassy for 2021. It's 2 years since we last held our London embassy, and a lot has happened in the immediate time in those 2 years. The biggest thing is that Marketing Derby won the Queen's Award for Enterprise and Innovation. So, thank you. So for us, this innovation theme is really, really important. Also, I think the links between Derby and London are important to us, which is why we hold these embassies in London. But Derby also is a city that is a city of innovation and making. So many of the tube trains that run around this city were made in Derby. And an interesting fact that I heard a few weeks ago, which is that 66% of London is built on aggregates from Derbyshire.
The people of Derby have a special place in my heart, as they do, I'm sure, for all the people here. They are the most amazing people. They are the most resilient. In Derby, we have the most amazing ambition. There's things that we're talking about, like the bid for the City of Culture. I see people here tonight. There's things around the rail headquarters, and there is so much richness that we have, and so much in terms of innovation. And we are here in London, and a few of us do have a privilege of living here in London. But to me, the greatest privilege is going back home to Derby and being there in Derby, which is just the most fantastic of cities.
I promised John that I would say just a few words about the experience that we've had over the course of COVID-19. It's been a difficult, long period. If you'd followed the headlines during that time, you would have thought this is a company in crisis. And I think that you'll see from the headlines, from the discussions, from the announcements in recent months and weeks, that actually a lot of things have been coming good. And Derby, of course, is central to all of these things because it is central to our experience as Rolls-Royce.
At the University of Derby, over the last 5 years, we have undergone a significant transformation. And it's apparent to us that to level up in the UK, we need to improve productivity. Our research team on supply chain logistics, globally recognised and working more outside the UK than within, are critical factors on how our business school can make a difference. But I have one challenge to our city. To further attract and retain our talent, we need strong partnership and growing partnerships with our businesses. And we need to be a destination city for thought leaders and high-quality culture.
Over that time, we've attracted 280 million of public money to regenerate our city. People are talking about our city, and they absolutely should. And we're getting our name on the map. We're fighting our corner to get that funding where it's most required. Derby is open for business. Please take that message away to everybody that you talk to. And of course the wider Team Derby, of which you are all members and really important members. Thank you very much.
So thanks for that. It was a great evening, and hopefully we're back in action now. We'll be doing another one of those in the autumn of this year, and look out for the invitation to another prestigious venue somewhere in central London. Just kind of talking about the investment challenge, if you like, particularly for towns and city centres. Everyone, I think, has been impacted by COVID in a negative way. Every place, you'll read about this anytime, and every city, therefore, is having to rethink its purpose, if you like, rethink what it's about, and strike the right balance effectively between a place to live, a place to work, and a place to visit. And in many respects, that's at the heart of the strategy in terms of the investments that we're trying to bring into Derby. In terms of living, I think actually we're doing quite well. Derby traditionally is not a place that was home to very much city living, hardly any. And we've watched places like Leeds and Manchester and Nottingham kind of race ahead. And so we are a bit on catch-up. But if you add up all of the residential units that are proposed in planning or under construction or completed, you're talking over 4,000. So you're probably talking around 10,000 people in 2 or 3 years' time living in the centre of Derby who weren't living there maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And you can see some of the schemes there, the Compendium scheme on Castle Ward, Wavensmere scheme at Nightingale Quarter. We'll talk a little bit about the Granger scheme on Beckettwell in a few moments. So I think on the living side, I've not been complacent, but I think we're kind of set fair on that, and I think it really will change the place. Having people living in the city centre changes the tone, the feel of the place. In terms of a place to work, we have a massive challenge. We've got a long, long way to go. And we'll talk about this in a couple of minutes' time. We're delighted to see that companies are coming back into the city. There are initiatives like the City Council's Connect service, Statton Young's Cubo service, and then this one, Bamboo and Cloud, who just moved in a couple of weeks ago, 100 young, kind of high-tech workers right in the city centre in what was effectively a converted nightclub. Still looks like a nightclub, actually, when you go in there. So the sort of new way of working. And I know we've got Brett and Vicky from Bamboo and Cloud in the audience here at the Quad today. And we do need companies like that, if you like, cutting edge, market maker type companies to come into the city. And then on the visit side, Alex mentioned the cultural kind of initiatives that are going on, and the big shift since we last met in the ABE was obviously the Museum of Making, which opened last spring. It is having a massive impact, I think, on place. I was there yesterday and it was absolutely jam-packed. But in terms of visiting, also you've got retail offer. The Derby On is now attracting 21 million people per annum. And that's not to say there's not other work that needs to be done outside in the city centre itself. But in those three sort of areas, I think we are starting to move on. You saw Kath Mitchell on the film, and the university just last week announced its vision for a city hub, so a campus on the western side of the city centre with a new business school, and then opening up green and blue spaces along the Markeaton Brook out towards the main campus over at Kedleston Road. Just slightly out of the city centre, one of the things that was announced that night at the embassy was a £65 million international investment out of New York to start to develop the St Modwyn Park, which probably most of us know as the kind of the Chaddeston Triangle or something like that. Well, if you go there now and have a look, you'll see loads of diggers kind of moving the earth around and starting to kind of put the foundations in for a major business park. And we hope to announce pretty soon the first tenant for that particular initiative right next to Pride Park. Just slightly out of town, one of the big investments we worked on was with a German company who have opened a bottling plant at the Dove Valley Park. This was very difficult to do because this was mainly done during COVID when travel and visiting and one-to-ones were really hard to do, so a lot of this was done down the line. But that's happened now. And then also out in the county, we've been working very closely with, and increasingly so, with the town teams who again are facing similar problems challenges in terms of how they kind of repurpose their town centres. One of the groups we've done a lot of work with is Loungers PLC, based in Bristol, who've opened two sites here in the city, but then opened one up in Buxton and are now just about to open one up in Matlock as well. So there is some activity happening on that side of the coin as well. So for the next section, we're going to have I guess what you call a fireside chat. I'm going to invite up, you saw him in the film, the Chief Executive of the City Council, Paul Simpson, to the stage. We're going to sit up here and we're going to have a chat about some of the schemes that are happening in the city, some of the challenges that are happening in the city. So please welcome to the stage Paul Simpson. Hello, Paul. I did warn you about that step. Yeah. So welcome to the Marketing Derby Annual Business Event. I think it's the first one that you've been able to attend in person because last year it was on film. Before we move on to the schemes, I'd be interested just to get your kind of general reflection on the past year as we've kind of been dealing still with the COVID pandemic as a place, but also your plan for recovery and the work that you've been doing with public-private partnership.
Yeah, well, morning everybody. Great to see you again this morning. And just seeing myself on the film just made me think I bumped into somebody who I know very well in Sainsbury's last week, and he said he's fed up of seeing me everywhere. So sorry, I'm on the film again. But I guess my main reflection, John, would be one of the guys that you had in your film. He used the phrase Team Derby. And I think that is just fantastic testament to the work that we've all done together over the course of the last 2 years, that people use that phrase in every shape, form and every audience. It's really interesting to see how embedded that term has become for a lot of people across the city. Obviously you and I have used it a lot in recent weeks in reference to the work that we've been doing as the film showed in relation to the football club. But that phrase is now, so it just seems to be so embedded in people's psychology. It's incredible, and I think that's something that clearly has emanated from the work that we've done together over the last 2 years in response to the pandemic, and it's just fantastic to hear people using that phrase, and that people feel part of a team, and I certainly do, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I'd reflect is when we're talking to investors, they're always astonished by the fact that there are businesses like the people in this room and the people watching us online who want to play a part in bringing their investments into the city and into the county, and it hits a mark with them. And then, as you saw with Wavensmere, they then become bondholders themselves. and they become part of Team Derby, which is quite interesting. I want to run through some schemes that you've been involved in from a city council perspective over the past year. So, and most people will have heard of most of these, but maybe just give a bit of backstory. So talk first about Smart Park, because this is pretty massive.
Yeah, it's incredible to think, actually. It's still less than 2 years since we met Jackie and her team on the old Selinese site in Spondon, where I grew up. Both my parents worked at Selinese years ago. So it was a special moment for me, actually, to be able to wander around that site and see and hear about the plans for what Jackie and her team are bringing to Derby. It's the first of its kind in the world. It's a food manufacturing and distribution hub. The City Council was successful in securing £12 million worth of central government funding to support the regeneration of the site. Obviously, it's a very contaminated site. The City Council's also putting £5.5 million of its own money towards the scheme. And that's going to lever in something like £300 million worth of private sector investment, and critically creating 5,000 jobs for the people of Derby and the surrounding area. And I think one of the things that is great about Smart Park, not only is it doing all the things that we set out to do around the diversification of our economy, but also the notion of decarbonising our economy. They've got sustainable technology at the heart of everything that they do, which is fantastic. And obviously, you know, the way the world is today, which is a very scary place compared to what it was just 24 hours ago. Things like food sustainability, I think, are going to be increasingly important in a world where food production may become a big issue for us in terms of the availability of key foodstuffs. So the fact that a business like Smart Park is coming to Derby, obviously very recently announced their first tenant in HelloFresh, which is again amazing news. That's the first 450 of those 5,000 jobs. This is a really big deal for us, and we're delighted that they're here and delighted to be working with Jackie and her team.
Yeah, and I mentioned the St Modern's Park earlier. If you drive out to just the other side of Rainsway, you'll see the same situation there. Lots of diggers moving lots of earth around and starting to put the foundations in for some of the first stage buildings at Smart Park. On a slightly smaller scale, but probably still on a high-tech kind of note, tell us a little bit about NEOS, the composite company.
I am everywhere, aren't I?
You are, yeah.
I do. Yeah, I mean, this is fantastic, because this was a site that the City Council owned, and we had some challenges with the previous tenant, and we were really fortunate that the NEOS guys were looking for a new space for their composite company. I had the pleasure of going around and looking at the site, and I was blown away by it, actually. They are an organisation that work in a lot of the high-tech sectors like Formula One. So they'd got chassis of cars in carbon fibre. And also, again, this notion of sustainability. They're actually demonstrating a car built with flaxseed, which just blew my mind, actually. So fantastic, again, to have a company like NEOS. We've helped them secure contacts, obviously, with some big potential clients in the likes of Reuters and Alstom, Toyota, etc. And I think they will become a really important part of the local supply chain. So again, fantastic to have them here. Yeah, they're relocating into a building that the City Council currently owns, and they're in the process now of actually buying that site, which obviously demonstrates commitment, which is fantastic.
Yeah, the great quality jobs. I was there a couple of weeks ago, and they've now become bondholders, which is kind of illustrates what I was saying earlier about people suddenly wanting to join Team Derby. They kind of get it, which is fantastic. One that's just about to come out of the ground, which maybe is not as famous as some of the others we just talked about. Tell us what the nuclear AMRC is all about and where it is.
Yeah, so obviously in terms of the Infinity Park site, where we've got the iHub, and that's been there, it's just celebrated its 5-year anniversary, actually. And so having another high-tech facility in that part of the city, this is part of a collaboration with our university partners, both obviously University of Derby, but also Sheffield University, and facilitating research into nuclear technology. And clearly Derby's got a history of that with, again, with Rolls-Royce and their nuclear division on Rainsway. And again, our aspirations as a city of future fuel technology, the nuclear MRC, I'm sure will facilitate our ambitions around that key part of our economic future, if you like, in terms of, again, decarbonising the economy. So, again, the City Council played a critical part there in securing, I think it was £6.5 million, again, of government money to help bring that site to the fore, and pleased to say that work is expected to begin on site very, very soon.
Yep, and another investor that's become a bondholder, and I think it's great to see that Infinity Park, as you say, has had this wonderful building in the middle of it for 5 years now with nothing else happening around it, and it's not just the nuclear AMRC, there's a couple of other projects underway in this year as well. So a bit like Pride Park, if I remember rightly, when Pride Park started, there was one building kind of stood alone for quite a few years, and then when the football stadium went up, a whole load of buildings happened. Maybe we're about to see that with Infinity Park too. We mentioned these guys earlier, and there's another photograph of you standing in front of an empty building. The Bamboom Cloud. So tell us a little bit about the story there, and in particular, I think, how we were able to use the additional restrictions grant to make something happen.
Yeah, I think this is one of my personal favourites, actually, just because I absolutely admire the bravery of Brett and Vicky in coming to the city and bringing those jobs into the city centre, because they could have taken an easy option, which was to go out onto Pride Park or somewhere like that. And actually, they chose to come into the city, and they've had some challenges which we've been trying to support them with. But you and I obviously went out a couple of weeks ago to see the opening of that building, and to see all the staff there working away, it was just a joy, an absolute joy. And we hope that Brett and Vicky are the first of many to bring similar jobs to the city. And as you're right, you know, what's great about it is that building stood empty, I think, for probably about 10 years, as I understand it. So repurposing a city centre building to bring high quality jobs to the city is fantastic, and the impact that will have on the surrounding businesses in terms of, you know, being able to go out at night for a drink or a bite to eat, that holistic and circular economy that we're trying to create. That's exactly what your film was showing there, John, in terms of, you know, that living and working and playing in the city. This is exactly what I think Brett and Vicky's business demonstrates absolutely perfectly. And the other good thing, that there's people who are working for their company who are relocating from places like Nottingham to come and live in the city centre. So the Nightingale development that you mentioned, as I understand it, some of Brett and Vicky's staff have actually bought property on that development, coming to live and work in the city centre, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what we're trying to do there, is look at the relationship between these things, and we do need more offices in the city centre, more office workers in the city centre. Some of it is repurposing, like we've done there. Some of it may well be new build that's required. But I think the passion that you see when you go to that place of Brett and Vicky, not just for the business but also for the place, and I think is fantastic, and we're looking to attract more. Right, I want to bring up some challenges now. So some of the issues that are yet to happen. But we would expect to be dealing with these things at an annual business event. So there's a building. Tell us about that.
Yeah, where to start, eh? I remember actually, just before I got the job on an interim basis, it felt like a job interview at the time, so it was 2 years ago now. And I came to, it was a Renaissance board meeting, and this it's probably the same picture actually, was actually put up on the screen, and I kind of had to, you know, I hadn't even got the job at that point, and I kind of had to explain what was happening with the assembly rooms, and here we are 2 years later, and I'm still sat here explaining what we're going to do with the assembly rooms. So, yeah, I mean, it's a challenge. We have got planning permission to demolish the building, but that is dependent upon having a clear plan in place as to what's to go in its stead. And there are some challenges. It's a conservation area, it's an historic market square, so we have to be quite careful about how we go about the demolition, and also very careful about what goes in its stead. We announced last year, again in conjunction with the university, Our aspiration is to relocate the Derby Theatre to that site. Now, it's a big site, actually, and even putting the theatre there won't be enough to fully accommodate the site. So there's also issues around what else is going to go in its stead. So alongside a theatre, there could be a hotel, there could be some commercial space, there could be some retail space. But the aspiration, certainly my aspiration for the city, would be to have a larger, modern theatre for the city. We've got a fantastic theatre at Derby Theatre, but obviously its location hinders its attractiveness in terms of a destination. Somebody mentioned destination on the film. And Derby needs to be a destination, and having, I think, a theatre in the heart of the city centre, creating that vibrancy that we all want to see. We aren't able to offer what other cities are, the kind of pre-theatre drinks, post-theatre dinner kind of gig. We should be able to have that in Derby. Why can't we have that in Derby? We should have it in Derby. And to me, that again would have a massive consequential impact then on the hospitality sector, the nighttime economy. The city is a ghost town apart from on a Friday and a Saturday night, and we need vibrancy. The Guildhall, obviously just across the way, so this is part of what we call a bigger part of Project Assemble. That site, the cultural heart of the city. We've recently agreed to refurbish the Guildhall. That's not gone. I don't think it's been kind of signed off yet by the cabinet, but it will be. And that will bring the Guildhall back into use, and we would really like to be able to do more with the Guildhall, so perhaps make it bigger, so to have an opening in the 31 and 32 that sit next to it, perhaps create a new opening for the Guildhall, a bar area, etc., and a new entrance, and again open that space out onto we've got a great space in the marketplace, but it isn't utilised enough. So that's something that we're looking at. Probably what those two things together are likely to result in a bid for levelling up funding from the government. So there'll be another round of levelling up funding, we understand, in the summer. So we will look to put a bid forward for both of those things. The City Council will obviously put in money into it as well. And we'll be looking for funding from other partners, be that perhaps the university themselves, or people like the Arts Council, Heritage, etc., etc. So there's an opportunity there to do something I think really, really special. But we've got to do it carefully, and it is going to take time. But that plan is underway. There's a new board that's been established within the City Council that's leading that piece of work. So, over the next few months, I'm hoping we'll be able to make some announcements about firm commitments to bringing forward those plans.
Would you say then that kind of it is an aspiration, as you say, it's a mega project, there's no doubt about it. I don't know what the numbers are, but there must be 50 million plus, so it's not cash that's easily to come by. Are you saying, Paul, that this essentially is your next big priority for the city centre to kind of solve this problem?
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at what's happening. I think we're going to come on and talk a little bit about Beckwithwell, but clearly the City Council's made a major commitment to the regeneration of the Beckwithwell site, bringing forward a brand new performance venue. Work on that site is going to start the back end of this year in terms of bringing the new performance venue into being, if you like, which will be fantastic. But that's just one part of the jigsaw. We need a vibrant cultural offer for the people of Derby and the surrounding area, which we clearly don't have at the moment. But this absolutely will be and I think the most important project in the city centre for a generation.
Yeah, and I think that the message that I think most people in this room and hopefully watching online would like to give you is Team Derby is behind you on this, and we all we're sick of this, and we need to see it change. And whatever we can do as a partnership to support those applications to government and things like that, it's another Team Derby opportunity, I suspect. Still with the challenges, and the river didn't look like that on Monday, I can tell you. It came all the way up to the top of those steps. But you often hear people say Derby doesn't have enough blue and green space, that we turned our back on the river back sometime in the 20th century. Tell us about what's in your mind's eye about how we can finally do a bit more with this side of the city.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's potentially massive opportunities for the regeneration along the Derby Riverside. So people may be aware that we've just secured another 17-18 million pounds worth of funding for the Our City, Our River project from the Environment Agency, which will enable us to deliver the next phase of the Oakhall project. It's obviously not in that particular picture, but just to the other side of the riverbank, if you like, is where that site will take effect. So there'll be a new city centre park, which will be part of the flood defences, forming a natural flood defences, which again will also facilitate further development downstream, and also critically, I mentioned Smart Park, ensure that the Smart Park site is there's a significant reduction in flood risk to that site as a result of the work that the Oakhall project will create. So that's really, really good news as well. But we have got to do more. I know there's a couple of the guys from Down to Earth are in the audience, and I've been talking to them a lot recently, and I can't say too much more about that at this stage because the plans are very embryonic. But there's some really, really exciting opportunities that those guys are working on around potential sites in the city centre, bringing more green space into the city centre. There'll be a very exciting development on the marketplace actually, which I'm really looking forward to seeing. Again, I can't say too much more about that, but again, that's around the kind of green theme, and also some news that I've received just this week. And again, sorry, I keep saying I can't say, and I can't at the minute. But look out for some exciting news about the city in the coming weeks about our aspirations to be a place that's seen as taking its responsibilities really, really seriously around climate change. Again, just keep your eyes peeled for that one.
Okay, and just moving quickly and finally into some of the pipeline projects. You've already talked a little bit about this. So this is the Becketwell projects. At the front of the picture is the apartment block, which is under construction at the moment, funded by Grainger. At the back of the picture is the performance venue. Anything else you want to say about this?
Yeah, again, I mean, this is clearly, you know, currently our flagship regeneration scheme in the city centre. Opportunity to bring not only people back into the city centre in terms of living. I had a walk around the site a couple of weeks ago. It's going to be a fantastic place for people to live. Got some fantastic vistas of the city from those apartments once they're completed. But also we know that we've attracted another investor into supporting the potential development of that scheme in Peveril. So that's really, really exciting news. We've got a new public square obviously coming, and again more green space into the city centre, the performance venue I talked about, the opportunity for office space, perhaps a hotel, and maybe some student accommodation as well. So a really mixed use of that site, and we all know what an eyesore it's been and what a millstone it's been around the city's neck for far too long. So to see that building coming out of the ground, and once that's finished, you know, that's going to send a really strong message. I said back at the embassy in November that Derby's open for business, and I absolutely mean that. And I think this scheme, more than any, is testament to that, because this is the first major development in the city centre, right in the heart of the city centre, and for too long Derby's reputation has been nothing happens. And this demonstrates, along with the Castle Ward development, along with the Nightingale development, that things are happening in the city at long last, and it's high time they did. So, and we need a pipeline. You know, we can't rest on our laurels. This can't be where we kind of sit down and say job done, because that clearly isn't the case.
Yeah, and I think the theme of the annual business event today is belief, and the fact that Grainger is the funder for the build-to-rent apartment scheme. Grainger are the #1 funder in the UK for that type of scheme. So they are the Rolls-Royce in their business, and also ASM Global, who'll be operating the performance venue, are #1 in the world in terms of events and arenas. So we're getting two Rolls-Royces right in the heart of the city, operating things. And I think that is a massive vote of confidence in the future of the city. The next visual I've got is the Market Hall. So obviously at the moment there's a lot of money being spent on protecting the Victorian Market Hall itself. This is one of the potential images for what might happen. Just tell us a bit about what we'd like to see there and when.
Yeah, as you've said, the work now on completing the exterior certainly the roof is almost complete after a fairly long period of time. But that's been a really complex project. Obviously, a lot of history in that building, and a lot of careful work's been needed to refurbish it. But it's going to be the inside that's really going to matter, isn't it, in terms of what goes on inside. And if it looks anything like that, I'll be absolutely delighted. Yeah, we want to create a space that is a combination of a place where people can meet, and we've seen places like Sheffield and Leeds, London, where historic buildings such as this have been repurposed for creative space, entertainment space, places for people to meet, to eat, to drink, pop-up bars, food, street food. That kind of vibe is that European vibe, I guess, if you like. That's exactly the vibe that we want for our marketplace. So we're working really hard on that at the moment. We've got some plans which obviously the councils will need to assess and determine in terms of what scheme ultimately goes forward. We're going to be talking to potential operators and looking at actually what takes place in that inside the market hall. So work on that is underway. And again, there was a report just to Cabinet just a week or so ago, which approved some further funding for the redevelopment of the interior of the building, which is again fantastic, shows the commitment that the council and the importance that the council places in this historic building, again right in the heart of the city centre. And if you think about what that mass of projects, if we can bring them to the fore, so this will be again right in the heart of the city centre, right next to the marketplace, the Guildhall. I've mentioned the proposals around the theatre. You begin to create a hive of activity and a place that attracts people who want to come and spend their money in Derby. We all know about the economics of our city. Yes, of course, we've got some challenges. We've got some cold spots in terms of deprivation across our city, particularly in some of our inner city wards. But we also know we've got a very successful economy, and we've got people that earn good money, that choose, for probably very obvious reasons right here, right now, not to spend that money in Derby city centre. We need to reverse that, and I think the Market Hall will be a major catalyst to turn that trend around.
Okay, and this received some government Future High Streets money as well, as did this scheme, which is the Eastern Gateway. I know this is not quite as developed, but just give people an idea of where that is and what the plan is.
Yeah, so that's the current entrance to the Eagle Centre Market, and also there's some retail space and some commercial space just as you come out of the bus station. So, we want to create, again, this notion of destination. If you were to come off a bus at Derby now and come into that city centre, you want to see something that inspires you, that wants you to come into the city and explore. So that, I think, is a key gateway for the city centre for people who may have never been to Derby before, either coming off the train or off a bus. That they come into Derby city centre, they'll see something that's attractive, that's modern, and that will want to keep them here and retain them in the city centre for a period of time, and that they don't just necessarily, come in and maybe nip to a shop or two, that they spend some quality time. They visit the Museum of Making. They spend time in the city centre. They spend time, hopefully, in a brand new purpose-built performance venue. They stay in a hotel. They go shopping in the Derby on, etc., etc. It's a destination then, where there's a combination of things to keep people here and to make people want to come back time and again. That's got to be our aspiration.
And the last two schemes I just want you to talk briefly about is, first of all, is Allestree Park and the rewilding scheme, which has kind of got an awful lot of national attention. So what exactly is that?
Yeah, this is one I am really proud of, actually. It came about as a conversation between myself and Joe, the chief exec of the Wildlife Trust, and it came really from an idea of one of the cabinet members in terms of what we were going to do now that the golf course the decision was taken to close the golf course, and somebody said, well, why can't we put some trees on it? And I thought, well, that's quite an interesting idea. So I met with Joe, and we talked about not just tree planting, because that's overly simplistic. It's far more than just planting some trees, which some people might think that's exactly what it is. It's more than that. It's about recreating a wild space, allowing nature to take a foothold again in a space that's obviously been very manicured as a golf course for many years. So it isn't just about planting trees, but it's about letting nature take its course. New flower meadows, yes, some trees as well, and helping it rewild naturally without too much in the way of human intervention, but giving nature a helping hand, if you like. That's how I see it. And the opportunities here are tremendous, because not only is this a potential space where the people of Derby and others can come, and again that notion of a destination, but a wild space where nature can once again begin to thrive, plants, animals, and also potentially then in years to come. This isn't going to be a quick fix, obviously, because it's about rewilding. Nature takes time to re-establish itself. But fundamentally, there are some fantastic opportunities here that commercial opportunities that we might want to explore. Staycations, things like that. The idea of maybe a rooftop cafe or something like that. Not a rooftop, a treetop cafe. Walks through treetops and things like that. I mean, it's some fantastic ideas that this presents. And what this has done, again, like some of our other schemes, Smart Park and many others, is putting the city of Derby in people's psyche. It's putting Derby on the map. We've already had lots and lots of other local authorities, not just in England and the UK, but nationally, approaching us and talking about this project. I think it was about a month or so after we announced this, Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, announced that he was doing exactly the same at Hyde Park in London. So this is about Derby being at the leading edge, and I'm passionate about the economy, the natural world, and this is a fantastic opportunity to do something that is potentially game changing. And again, talking to the down to earth guys, this is something that's really important to me personally, and I couldn't be prouder of hopefully what this will eventually look like.
Okay, and last but by no means least, you're opening a new swimming pool in a few weeks' time. So just remind people what it's often forgotten, I think, that it's there and it's been built by Bowman Kirkland. There will be a bondholder tour of it in a few weeks' time. Tell us about that, the Moorway Sports Village.
Yeah, I drove past it just a week ago, and it looks absolutely incredible. It looks amazing, and that's just from a cursory 10 seconds drive past without even getting up close and personal to it. It looks absolutely amazing, and I think it will be a tremendous facility for the people of Derby and the surrounding area, because I'm sure it will attract people from far and wide once it's opened and word gets out about just how good it is. Yeah, again, a major commitment from the City Council, £40-odd million worth of investment to bring this site into being. We've obviously announced, again, a major operator, and they're not just going to be running the facility here itself, but also the entire Moorway Sports Village, so the running track and the football pitches as well. So creating, a really great hub for sport and physical activity in a really important part of the city. So it'll be fantastic when it's opened. And again, another thing where the City Council has made a commitment to deliver something aspirational, and obviously the notion of today's event, John, in terms of I believe, there was a belief that this could be delivered, and it's going to be delivered, and it opens very soon. So that's fantastic in terms of, again, that commitment to making things happen in our city.
So hopefully you found that a really useful walk around and get the sense of passion that Paul feels for the place, and that yes, there are certain schemes that like this which are literally about to happen. There's others that are under construction. There's others that are in our mind's eye for the future, but there's a jigsaw that we're kind of piecing together, and underpinning that, I think, is belief in place. So please show your appreciation to Paul for the passion he's brought to the city and the change he's helping to drive. So thank you very much, Paul. No, you stay there. Right, we're moving very close to our last chapter, which is the Dare to Dream. And just before that, I want to show a film on Derbyshire. The sale for Derbyshire is very different from the city, very complementary. I mentioned earlier that we've launched a prospectus, investment prospectus for Derbyshire this week, but also there's a number of films, and this brief film shows the quality of life offer. So if we run the film, thank you very much.
Why invest in Derbyshire? We're home to vibrant market towns and incredible rural workspaces. We've got the Peak District and National Forest, two breathtakingly beautiful places. Our county gives you access to the great outdoors. So after work, you can do this. Or this. Or even just this. We connect you to the rest of the UK by road or even quicker by train. We are Derbyshire, and for quality of life, we're the best. Live, work, play, invest.
I've mentioned already the importance of bondholders to who we are as Marketing Derby and how it helps. And each year at the AB, we celebrate bondholders who've hit their 10th anniversary with us. So this very brief film shows the bondholder companies who have been with us now for 10 years up to 2022. So if we just roll quickly that film. So thanks so much to all those bondholders for the support they've given us and the previous 10 years as well. And next year we'll run another little group. In terms of the profile that we bring to bondholders and in and around the city and county, and we just kind of added up. You can see there the e-shots that we produce 3 times a week. There's 11 stories in each e-shot. They go out roughly 50 weeks, and we have nearly 5,000 subscribers. There's 9 million impressions there for these stories. So really good news stories about businesses in and around Derby, and we also now supplement that with our Innovate magazine, which is now quarterly, so we're permanently writing slightly more in-depth stories, so thanks to Steve Hall and his team on that one. And then obviously our events are absolutely legendary. The Financial Times actually 2 or 3 years ago described our events as the best inward investment events in the world. We went online obviously for the last year or so, and now we will continue to run a hybrid, so we will keep some of the online events, but obviously we're doing more and more face-to-face events. And one of the major events we did last year, and there is a film for this which we won't run this morning because we're just running slightly out of time, is the Food and Drink Awards. So go onto our website and catch that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move towards the Dare to Dream. Right. This has become one of our red letter slots, if you like, at the ABE, the Dare to Dream slot. And believe it or not, this is our 9th edition of that. And in 2014, the chair of Geldards, David Williams, kicked it off with the vision to repurpose the city's cultural offer. And the following year, Kath Mitchell, Vice-Chancellor of the university, who was new in the job then, argued for greater synergy between the city and the university on the up. And I think that you can probably see from some of what we talked about earlier today, those things are now beginning to happen. And since then, we've had all sorts of themes: the Disneyfication of the city, around the world cyclists, young people and music, and future Olympians. And this year, we welcome a woman called Leslie So. Now, Leslie was born in Hong Kong. She grew up in Vancouver, Canada. She has over 13 years of senior management experience with Rolls-Royce, including being based in places around Europe, Brazil, USA, Canada, and of course here in Derby in the UK. And her previous roles within Rolls-Royce include Vice President of Marketing for Services and Head of Manufacturing of the biggest aero engine test facility in the world. Leslie took a very brave decision. She left her corporate job in 2020 and to pursue her dream, which is to build a social venture with social purpose, to be a sustainable, ethical brand that cares for our planet and employs the marginalized in our society. I'm going to hear a bit more about that in a second. So Good Kombucha, you would have seen it downstairs in the entrance hall, is handcrafted in Derby. It's a new startup. It's our rising star for this year. But already it's stocked at over 35 retailers across the country. It's featured in BBC's Good Food Show, the Sunday Times, and is endorsed by celebrities such as Russell Brand. So Good Kombucha, as I say, has been selected as the rising star for this year. I'm delighted now to welcome Leslie to the stage to share her Dare to Dream with you. Welcome, Leslie, please.
Wow, what an introduction. Thank you so much, John. Thank you. And it's I wasn't nervous before stepping up, but now I'm a bit nervous. After that introduction, I hope I can live up to it. Yeah. So my name is Leslie So, and I'm the founder of So Good Kombucha, and I am so thrilled to be this year's Marketing Derby Rising Star. And it's such an honor to be able to stand here in front of you guys today and share with you my Dare to Dream. But before I get on to that, I wanted to actually answer the question I probably get asked more than any other, and that's, so, what is kombucha? And the short answer is that kombucha is actually a living fermented tea. It tastes like a nice fizzy drink, but is packed full of live cultures, gut-healthy bacteria, and that's really good for gut health. And gut health is linked to a myriad of physical and mental health benefits, things like strengthening the immunity, detoxing the body, boosting energy, and so much more. But the real story behind kombucha is even more remarkable. This is a SCOBY, and that stands for Symbiotic Culture of Bacteria and Yeast. It looks a little bit like an alien, but it's actually an amazing multi-species ecosystem working together in harmony to produce this amazing tea-based drink. The straggly bits you see there is actually yeast, and that consumes the sugar in the sugar and tea mixture to produce CO2, which is what makes the drink naturally fizzy, and that's why the drinks need to be kept in the fridge. And the other thing that it produces is ethanol, and then amazing community of gut-friendly bacteria actually metabolizes the ethanol and tea to produce healthy organic acids, which is good for pancreatic and liver health, and that's what boosts metabolism. The other byproduct of this metabolization process is the biofilm. It's what you see up there. And the biofilm actually stores and provides access to resources that are essential to the good of the community. Another benefit of the biofilm is it creates a natural barrier, and that protects the community from invaders and harmful microbes and makes it all antibacterial as well. This is a diverse community, working together and doing its own thing, but together it produces something that's greater than itself. A drink that is so healthy and delicious that when it was discovered over 2,000 years ago in ancient China, it was allegedly known as the elixir of life. I first came across kombucha because we brewed it as a family. As John's already mentioned, I was born in Hong Kong, grew up in Vancouver, Canada, and I moved to the UK about 15 years ago to work for Rolls-Royce, and I've had a fantastic career and so wonderful to have had that opportunity. I've lived and worked in all these amazing cities around the world, places like Montreal, San Francisco, and of course, Derby. And a particularly significant time in my life was actually when I worked in Sao Paulo, Brazil. It's an incredible city. It's full of glamorous high-rises and the most amazing picturesque parks. But mere blocks away, so literally across the street, are stretches of shanty towns known as favelas, where there is abject poverty and crime and corruption. And I really experienced firsthand there how a good business can change lives. That for individuals who've had work experiences in companies, reputable companies like Rolls-Royce, it can really make a career, and that in turn can lift individuals and entire families out of a cycle of hopelessness and poverty. And I held on to that vision, and I thought, one day I want to start my own business. I want to be able to make a good product. I want to be able to do something that's good for the planet. And I want to, more than anything, create good employment for people who are marginalized in society. When COVID hit, I thought, gosh, it's now or never. And that is the vision behind So Good Kombucha. Having lived in 10 cities and 5 countries in my life, I chose Derby to be the home of my business. Not only because it's situated in the right place in the country and it's just the right size, and of course the amazing standard of living in the video we've just seen. No, I chose Derby because of the wonderful people. People who are genuine and generous. Thank you. People who are passionate about their city and wear their hearts on their sleeves. People who are industrious and innovative. People who come together to help one another, so much like you guys here in the audience. People who do not quit. I love Derby because of people who welcome others who are different from themselves. People who really celebrate diversity in culture. People who are inclusive. And these are the people who have welcomed me. So on to my dare to dream. My dare to dream is to see Derby thrive as a hub for good businesses. Makers, traders, businesses with real social purposes and values. Because a good business can change lives. It offers so much more than just a salary or a paycheck. It gives people purpose and meaning. It shows them that they are accepted and that they belong. I've recently hired 2 people from Hong Kong who have left behind illustrious careers to come to England. One of them even have their own Wikipedia page. And like so many who have fled Hong Kong recently, due to concerns over dismantling of basic freedoms in their beloved city, they lack confidence in culture and they don't quite grasp our culture and the way of life, and they lack confidence in English, but they make up for it in just their tenacity, resourcefulness, positive attitudes, and diligence. And I dream one day to be able to build not just a kombucha brewery, but a beverage manufacturing company here in Derby, so that I can employ and train people like my friends from Hong Kong who really want to work and they really want to contribute and to make a home and to belong here. I dream that it would be a B Corp certified business that would be able to help eliminate food waste, do things that are good for the environment, enable other businesses to become plastic free. I dream that it would be the greenest and most sustainable co-packer in the UK. I dream of partnering with local charities to release limited edition flavors that are going to raise awareness for their cause. And I dream even of a kombucha pub, where a place where these flavors can be available on tap, to make a product here and to trade it to the UK and even beyond. But if I dared to dream a bigger, even bigger. I dreamed that we wouldn't do it alone. Imagine a symbiotic community, much like the SCOBY, a hub of like-minded businesses, like artisan bakers and coffee roasters, kombucha brewers, and beverage manufacturers, each of them doing their own thing, but coming together to produce something that's greater than the sum of each of its own parts. A community that will pool together resources where it makes sense, things like purchasing or storage and packing and logistics, warehousing, supporting each other in things like pop-up shops, retail area, informal tours, education, a place where the extraordinary products, creativity, and diversity of Derby can be showcased to the rest of the UK. So that instead of a kombucha pub, you actually have a maker's food hall and a place where we can all come together and experience Derby, creating employment and training opportunities to lift many people in the city out of social benefit systems and offering them purpose and hope. A symbiotic community like the SCOBY of good businesses changing lives in Derby, promoting inclusiveness, and striving to ensure that no one gets left behind. Because, as Gandhi once said, the true measure of any society can be found in how it treats its most vulnerable members. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it gets harder and harder to say thank you at these events. Leslie, that was so inspirational, unbelievable. All the speakers today, all our presentations, the videos, the hard work, I usually stand up and say thanks. Thanks to John, the team, for all their work. Thanks to the Marketing Derby board, who work so hard as well. A huge thank you to our major sponsors, of course, and the bondholders, Derby City Council, Derbyshire County Council, and so on. And to all the bondholders that are out there, 300 plus now, and growing. It gets harder because I just get very touched about Derby. When it's great to be back, isn't it? Everybody outside this morning, they said how they'd missed the hugs. And I thought it was me. And, you know, if I go back to the start of the pandemic, Marketing Derby was like lots of every other firms. We had choices. And many, many, many inward investment firms took the furlough option. John and the team did not. And we've grown, we've got better, we've used different tools, techniques. They kept it going. We've all clapped the NHS, of course we have, and all the emergency services. But this was one of those business emergency services that's just been undercover and has kept this momentum, this city of ours on track and kept it moving. Don't you agree? So we're better, we're stronger, we've learned, we're going to continue. You've seen the huge amount of opportunity in front of us. The inspiration and the depth of talent, the new startups that have joined us, the inspirational businesses that have moved back into the city, as Paul was showing all those stories today. It's a fantastic time, a huge opportunity. And I'd like to thank very, very much John and his team for doing their part in this. We'll appreciate that. But more than anything, we appreciate the people of Derby and how they've come together in the past year, in the past couple of years, but also in the past few months, weeks, in everything that keeps getting thrown at us. we will endure, and we will be here. Derby will be here, Derby County, I mean. You know, everything will come good. So this passion today that you've seen, you've heard, believe is the theme. So let's believe, let's make it happen. Let's do it, and it's great to be back, and thank you. So thank you to all of you for turning out today. Thanks to Johnny and his team, the board, the bondholders, and to everybody else out there doing their bit that can't be with us today. Okay, thank you everybody, and see you at the next event. Much appreciated. Thank you.
I've got to stop laughing now, I've got to be really serious. And obviously the most important reason for
You pass it on, yeah.
It's the thought of the biscotti on the top. And obviously one of the most important reasons for me for renewing my bondholder membership was donuts.